And I want to start with you, Mr. Agalga, just your preliminary thought. First of all, congratulations. I know a number of the NDC executives have been overwhelmed by how much vote you got in the just ended general election, over 1.6 million votes in addition to, I'm wondering how you are taking it personally.
Well, first of all, I would like to thank the electorate for voting massively for the NDC. After 8 years of MPP rule, it was obvious that the people were yearning for a change because the MPP administration had inflicted a lot of pain on Ghanaians. I mean, the economy clearly has been mismanaged. The inflation rates, keep soaring. I mean, if you go to our markets, you just can't buy anything. The exchange rate, like Baumia himself rightly pointed out some time ago, badly exposed this particular administration. So I wasn't surprised at all that the people of this country gave the NDC a resounding victory. For those who think that the numbers we have recorded, over 1.6 million votes, in favor of President Mahama, I have a second opinion because right from the outset, the opinion polls were very clear. Global Info Analytics pointed out clearly that the NDC was going to win by 54% and above. So if you look at the predictions that were made, I don't think that the difference was too substantial.
Let me go to Mr. Kabo there for his preliminary thought as well. Mr. Kabo, I'm sure you just heard Mr. James Agalga in his preliminary statement saying that the NPP government had inflicted pains on Ghanaians. So he's not surprised, and indeed the NDC is not surprised for this massive win. I wonder what your preliminary thoughts are.
Well, I would like to first of all say that this election has been a very difficult election for most ruling governments across the continent. And in 2023, in 2024, most African incumbent governments have taken a hard hit by their populace as a result of the happenings in 2019, 2020, and the post-COVID recovery difficulties that many economies have gone through. So in terms of that, yes, there has been some economic challenges that we have faced as a government. The kind of environment that we came in to inherit from 2016 to 2017, all through to 2018, you could see that the economy was on the right trajectory until we were hit by this force majeure. This is not anything any government anticipated, and we all saw what happened across the world as far as the economies of most countries are concerned. However, here in Ghana, as a government, we put in place measures. The president was very resolute on the fight of COVID, and we saw the major relief support that the government provided for Ghanaians to the first time in the history of this country where electricity bills were suspended for household users. For the first time in the history of this country where Ghanaians were suspended from paying water bills, all in the fight to ensure that we ameliorate the difficulties Ghanaians have been going through. Since the post-recovery of COVID, we've had to take some very draconian measures. And of course, those measures have also impacted negatively on the general economic environment. You know, the introduction of some taxes that eventually were part of the reasons why we had to go to the IMF, and the very difficult and strenuous situations, we had to take the bullet and eventually get into that situation. I'm very happy that as the NPP government is exiting, if you listen to what the statisticians and the government figures coming out from the national statistics is talking about, gradually the economy is bouncing back. Our stability of our currency compared to what has been happening to it in the last 6 months, you could see an utmost stability as far as that front is concerned. And I'm very happy that the new government is going to come in with all these indicators pointing favorably for them to start off the post-recovery.
So let me ask you...
Okay, go ahead.
Please, just land on your thought.
Well, I'm also very excited that the new government is very poised to take the mandate given to them by the Ghanaian people very seriously. We had a very emphatic victory in 2016, and at that time, I'm not too sure that the comments that my brother is making were any different from the comments that he's making that existed. You know, the sentiments of Ghanaians in 2016 were very difficult times. We had also gone through a very difficult time under the NDC government that he served under as a Deputy Minister of Interior. We had slept in Dumso for 4 years. Free education did not exist. And all these social interventions that we have put in place, we also brought these programs to ameliorate the difficulties Ghanaians were going to as far as education was concerned,
So,
as far as job creation were concerned. So
I wanted to ask you this question, and then we'll go to the very discussion on the table.
You didn't really ask him any question when he was speaking. So if you let me finish, I'll be very grateful so we can start the conversation. I'm only saying that if you listen to the sentiments that are going on currently in Ghana, those sentiments are not different from the sentiments that brought the MPP into office in 2016. Essentially, those sentiments are entirely not different. So I want to wish them well. And like we have already indicated, we are not going to be a very disruptive opposition. We are going to give the president the opportunity to take the mandate Ghanaians have given to him very seriously. And I'm happy that the president has indicated that it's not going to be a walk in the park.
Okay, the president has indicated that it's not a walk in the park. But I wanted to ask you this question before we go to the substantive matter. You're saying that whatever situation that the NDC is talking about, they faced it in 2016. But again, the question is, I mean, of course, you've admitted the bit of the tax after you gave the freebies. You came back with the COVID-19 tax. But the main concern has also been that the government did not manage the resources that we had. Because in this government alone, you received so much. I think a bit over $2 billion dollars, even in COVID funds alone. And therefore, if you had managed it, perhaps we would not have been in the economic mess that we've been in until the elections, which led to Ghanaians voting you out.
Dear sister, can you imagine living in a Ghana where for 1 year you don't pay electricity, you don't pay water? And if you aggregate all that across all the households in Ghana, and the electricity, even before we suspended electricity payments for household users, this government had reduced electricity prices cumulatively for over more than 30%.
But it still came back to hurt us.
On top of that, we provided these freebies for Ghanaians, all in the fight of the COVID-19. And don't forget, this economy was under a lockdown.
You do not think...
And we all know the impact that lockdown took on the economy.
You do not...
And the global economy for that matter. So this is the point we are trying to make. Under the NDC, they didn't face any external shocks. They didn't face any difficulties on the global market. They didn't face any lockdown. Their simple issue was how to fix Dumso, how to get Ghanaians out of the doldrums. They kept us in. The first 4 years of President Mills were equally good years. The economy was doing well until President Mahama took over.
So I don't want us to veer off what we are supposed to be discussing. So I would be grateful if
you ask the question.
If you're able to be brief with your answer, so we can look at the parliamentary issues that we're discussing. But James Agaga wants to respond just very briefly to you, and then we can wrap up on this and go into the issue that is on the table.
Beatrice,
that's okay.
First of all, it is not true that Dumso is something that happened and the NDC couldn't resolve. We resolved Dumso by the time the MPP took over power. Dumso had been fixed. So let me remind my brother. Secondly,
but we suffered 4 years under it.
Secondly,
we've suffered 4 years under Dumso, my brother.
You see, this country failed to invest in the power sector. It was the cumulative effect that hit the John Mahama administration. But by the end of his tenure, we had fixed Dumso, we had increased our generation capacity, and he knows that. Now, Beatrice, Ghana was not the only country which was hit by COVID-19. Next door, Côte d'Ivoire was equally hit by COVID-19. The lockdown in Ghana was not protracted. We were locked down for only 2 weeks. So, you see, it is not entirely true.
2 weeks and it was extended.
2 weeks. It wasn't
extended.
The lockdown effectively took place for 2 weeks. Be that as it may, Beatrice, next door Côte d'Ivoire was equally hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. How come? Why is the Ivorian economy doing far, far better than our economy? Why? They had better shocks than us.
You do not think that the freebies this government also affected its finances?
This government tried to seek refuge under COVID-19 and the Russia-Ukraine war. I'm surprised my brother didn't talk about the Ukraine-Russia war as one of the reasons why there is an economic meltdown in our country. Look, they failed woefully in the management of our economy. They failed. They said they were going to take us from taxation to production. What happened?
So let me ask you, Mr. Kabo, if you can briefly just answer this.
Let's just accept the fact that
answer this.
They mismanaged our economy and Ghanaians punished them for the mismanagement and incompetence they exhibited whilst in office.
What Mr. Gaga is saying, also asking the question, and if you can be very brief for me on that, about the fact that there are a number of people who are saying that the MPP, particularly the president and the flag bearer of the MPP going into this year's general election, must accept responsibility for this. They call it embarrassing loss of the MPP in the 2024 general election, even to an extent that the free senior high school policy that the MPP was riding on didn't seem to have caught the attention of people to vote for you again to come back to power.
You've asked two questions in your statement. The first is to respond to what my brother said, and then you're adding other twists to your question. So let me take them just as you asked them. It is true. That wasn't Ghana alone that was hit. But the measures we took in this country during the COVID-19 were completely unprecedented. There's no African country that provided free electricity for its citizens. No African country provided free water for its citizens. No country did that. No country did that. And that is a fact that we must admit in this country, that this government took those decisive measures and all of them benefited.
People say it was a strategy to win the 2020 election.
Well, you could say all the things you want to say. Policy means what? What is the essence of a policy? A policy is to ameliorate the difficulties of the people. That is what it is about.
Beatrice, they received a whopping amount of $2 billion. $2 billion.
If you could allow him to land, please.
Agalga, you are basking in the glory of your victory.
Oh no!
And I can imagine the excitement that it comes with.
I'm speaking to the facts. I'm speaking to the facts. The MPP received $2 billion. In fact, when the Auditor General...
Am I asking?
Yes,
am
please.
I answering your question?
Please answer the question, Mr. Agaga. I'll come to you. And we need to really...
I'm not listening to my cousin. I'll call him over the phone and have a conversation. But at this point, I'm listening and taking questions from you.
Please, go ahead with your point.
And I'm dealing with that. I'm saying that no African government provided the Ghanaian people, its people, the kind of reliefs that His Excellency Akufo-Addo provided Ghanaians during that difficult time. We didn't provide it for 2 weeks. We provided it for an extended period and renewed it until it was about a year for people to really settle. And that's how come we did not get the pervasive impact of COVID-19. But can you imagine an economy coming to a halt for 1 day and the amount of money a government will lose as a result of that? Can you imagine the supply chain challenges that struck the world, and the fact that container prices across the world increased by 100%, and the knock-on effect on consumers and importers, for that matter, in Ghana? Let's not run away from these facts. We can play the politics, but now, coming to the question you ask, essentially, that we must take responsibility. I mean, when you go into an election, you must take ultimate responsibility. And we have taken responsibility. That is why our flag bearer conceded this election, brought the tension down to this down this country, and to ensure that we could have a peaceful transition. Today, Ghana is being hailed internationally for the single gesture that a decent Baumia exhibited. His Excellency President Mahama never did any of that.
And that leads me to my next question. I was
He never
saying
did any of that.
I was saying earlier that this parliamentary election has been characterized by a lot of chaotic stuff, and I'm sure you're aware to an extent that at certain points the Electoral Commission felt that some of their reps were under duress, as it were, to declare some of the constituencies for instance, the NDC, and we're still seeing at least about 10 of the constituencies under contention, with the MPP asking that the EC resumes the recollation, for instance. Can you give me your preliminary thoughts on how this parliamentary election has been held from your perspective?
Well, if you ask me, I think this is one of the best elections we've held in this country as far as the work of the Electoral Commission is concerned. We haven't had a situation. In 2012, we have BVRs that were not working in the middle of the elections. We had challenges. We had elections having to stop. Elections had to be suspended till the following day. I think that the Electoral Commission of Ghana deserves some commendation for the manner in which this particular presidential and parliamentary elections were conducted. Our friends on the other side were raising a lot of issues that didn't exist. But eventually, when the dust settled, we all followed the rules and the elections went on perfectly. It went on perfectly until we conceded defeat after we had realized from our own internal coalitions that these were the matters that were going on. As soon as our flag bearer spoke, the NDC decided to take the law into their own hands. And that is why we still have this situation of well over 17 about 17 election constituencies that have been in complete dispute as far as coalition and declarations are concerned.
How do you mean NDC decided to take the law into its own hands?
Because at that point, the NDC communication officer, Sami Jemfi, held a press conference and charged all their party supporters to storm coalition centers. That appears to be missing from the narrative as far as this chaos we are dealing with is concerned. And that is exactly what happened.
But you're commending,
since then,
you're commending the Electoral Commission. You do not think that the EC perhaps might have also played a role in what we're saying? Because we've seen some constituencies where, for instance, I believe Ablekuma West and East, where the presiding officer for the other side decided to declare for the other side because he wasn't around. And we also saw the complaints from Dom Kwabenya, for instance, where the NPP parliamentary candidate was alleging that the EC went ahead and did a declaration without...
The both of us sitting on list talking to you this evening have all gone through elections. My cousin Agalga has gone through competitive elections, and he knows what happens at these places. There was no chaos in Bulsa. Why? Everybody appears at the coalition center with your pink sheets. Pink sheets is the name of the game. So if you have 10 polling stations and you are going to the coalition center, you must have 10 pink sheets to confirm your results with the Electoral Commission. So if you get to the polling station or you get to the coalition center and you don't have pink sheets, you have no case. At that point, the parties must agree to refer to the Electoral Commission's duplicate document, because when both parties sign the pink sheets, a copy is given to the NDC, a copy is given to the MPP. The Electoral Commission keeps the original copy.
So let's compare this argument.
That is what we take to the.
Let's compare this argument.
What you take to the Electoral Commission. Wait, that's what you take to the the coalition center, so that you can sort out your numbers before the tabulation is done and the declarations are made. That is the process.
I want to take you to Okaikwe Central, because the argument you're making seems contrary to what we heard, where Peter, the incumbent now, Patrick Boama, was saying that he didn't have the pink sheet, and yet he went on to say that he won, although it was declared for the other one.
Madam, in the case of Okaikwe Central, I myself was at the Electoral Commission office. I went there in respect of Ablekuma North, Okankwe Central, and Domi Kwabinya. I was there with Peter Otukono. I was there with Chairman Adekoka. I was there with Sadiq himself, and I was there with the constituency. So I'm not giving you an account that is being written on some article somewhere. I was there, and I'm telling you that the MPP side in Okankwe had a peculiar problem. Some of the NDC chaps, according to the account, accosted MPP agents, beat them up, took their pin sheets, and destroyed them. But the MPP collation system is of the case where every polling station will take a scanned copy on your phone and transmit that to the collation center at the national level. So by the time the NDC boys had beaten up these agents, this is the story. I'm giving you the narration. I have not investigated it. I have no, from perspective, from what I've heard, that is what happened. And that could be a criminal or prosecutorial matter for the police to deal with. These are not matters that Electoral Commission resolves. However, when that happened, they came to the coalition center with a copy of their scanned pink sheets. And their idea was that what should happen now is the case where the Electoral Commission should rely on its original pink sheets that it keeps as its original documents, compare that with what the NDC is submitting, and declare the winner.
And I want to go to Mr. Galga, but I just want to get clarity. Really, you're saying that you have the electronic copy, you don't have hard copy. I mean, people call it cock and bull story. How do you respond to that?
So the way to resolve a cock and bull story is for the Electoral Commission. If you, for instance, go to a shop and then you pay for your food and you lose your receipt and you go back to that wherever you bought the goods and you said, I bought goods from this place, I don't have my receipt. Do you think that the company can look you in the face and say they don't have a duplicate copy of the receipt?